We go now to Warner Cable News reporter Barry Wygel, who brings us more on the life of Mario Cuomo and those he interacted with. Barry?
Well, good evening, Nick. We have joining us now Bob Cudmore on the phone. He recently wrapped up a 50-year radio career in which he interacted with the former Governor Mario Cuomo many times. Bob, are you there? Okay.
Hello, Barry.
Oh, Bob, there you are. Good evening.
Good evening.
Now, when you were on the radio, I believe it was when you were at WGY, what was your interaction with the governor?
The governor was on the WGY nighttime talk show and many others, starting, I think, when he was Secretary of State. I kind of picked up with him when he was Lieutenant Governor. He loved doing talk radio. Probably the most memorable program I did with him was early in his tenure as governor in the 1980s, when he showed up at the radio station, and almost simultaneously the radio station went off the air, and we were sitting there with the governor of New York and a whole bunch of the Capital District media assembled to record this great event, and we weren't on the air. So ultimately we just started interviewing him, and people were calling anyway, wondering why we weren't on the air. So he did the show then. I don't think he was particularly happy. I have this great picture of him. Sometimes Mario Cuomo didn't suffer fools lightly, and I think he was wondering a little bit about me.
I think he'll certainly be remembered as a governor of the people. And just as a person, what was your interaction from the minute he walked into your studio? What was he like?
Well, he was articulate and he was eloquent and he was friendly. I mean, he was a politician. He was a great debater. I think he was accessible, very accessible to the media, maybe unlike his son. And I think maybe his son learned from that. Sometimes when I would interview the governor on the phone, his son would be there helping him. And Mario Cuomo would sometimes get in these extended arguments with people on the air, and I don't think that probably helped him a great deal. And so I think I've always thought that was one of the things that contributes to Andrew Cuomo's relative reticence in making himself available to the kind of the media around the state.
In your opinion, what will the governor's legacy be?
Well, his articulateness and his eloquence. He was a great debater, as I just indicated. I hate to bring it up almost, but he was maybe too great. He was kind of argumentative. I worked in media, and then after that, in the interest of full disclosure, I went to work for the state university during the Cuomo administration, and I remember sitting with an appointee of the governor who at the state university, and we were listening to him doing the radio talk show that he did after he stepped down as governor, and this gentleman called in basically to support him, but Mario Cuomo ended up arguing with him. I mean, he just loved the process of debate and argument, and that's, I think, what I'll always remember about him.
I think a lot of people around New York kind of lament the fact that he did not eventually seek higher office or get to higher office, and I certainly wasn't around during that time, but can you describe just the feeling of New Yorkers during that time of what they thought the governor would go on to do?
I mean, I think they thought he would go on to be the great liberal hope, if you will. I mean, this was a time when Ronald Reagan had been in office, George Bush the first had been in office, and there was a lot of hope for Mario Cuomo as president of the United States. But it was kind of maddening, I think, to his supporters. I mean, I'm sure it was in your report on his life that he held off on announcing that he was running for president until he settled the budget, and which is like, well, but anyway, that's what he did, and he didn't settle the budget, so he didn't, run for president. They used to call him, as you may know back then, Hamlet on the Hudson, to be or not to be. Am I running or not running? And his famous statement about, I'm not making plans to run, and I'm not making plans to make plans.
For people who, again, weren't around during that time, how would you describe what it was like when he was governor? I know there's stories of people being able to go and see him, and he was a person that was out and about in Albany and in around the community. What was that time like? That was
so, as you describe it, Barry. He was very accessible. And when George Pataki came in, he was less frequently in Albany, but Mario Cuomo was a great believer that, I'm governor of New York. This is the people's house. I'm going to live in that governor's mansion and talk to people and so forth. He'd even get together with his political opponents. He was a great athlete, as you may know, in his younger days, a baseball player. But what I remember more is that he would play basketball with Jim Tedisco, the Republican assemblyman, and other members of the state assembly. He was very personally, interesting. I mean, he was interested in people, and that showed itself in his years in Albany.
And it's tough not to compare his son, the current governor, to him. But what do you think other governors can take away from how he conducted himself while he was in office?
I think he took the office seriously, was the point. I mean, some were saying, I think it really was, as your report had indicated, a surprise when Pataki won, or at least a surprise to people like me, because Mario Cuomo seemed to have a handle on state government. It isn't the most kind of appealing or sexy kind of news, but he knew about budgets, and he knew about the patterns of thought in the legislature and so forth. But he really took seriously his role as governing the state, trying to make the state better than it was, when he first took office. And as your report indicated, I think the thing that was with him all through this was his opposition to the death penalty. It helped him sometimes, it hurt him sometimes, it seemed maddening sometimes maybe to those who supported him, wanted him to go farther, but it was something he believed in.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to share your thoughts on the former governor. We're going to send it now back to the Capitol Tonight studio with Nick Reisman.